Austin and Monica Mangelson, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thank you so much for having us. We are super excited to be here.
It is a pleasure to be with you both today. You're joining me from Idaho. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about practical tips and tricks for growing and scaling an online business. You're in a beautiful part of the state of Idaho on vacation at the moment, and you're taking time out of your restful schedule to meet with me, and I appreciate you taking the time. We're going to have a fun conversation. As we get started, I wanted to share Monica and Austin's bio with everybody. Traveling the world freely with your loved one by your side, making memories. That's the dream life, right? Today, Austin and Monica are experiencing just that. They're a digital nomad couple with a thriving online business. Along the way, they've learned a lot, laughed a lot, and made a lot of mistakes. But their unconventional life path has taught them to appreciate the beauty in everyday moments. They love being location independent and believe that you too can live full of adventure. I love everything about that. I love the nomad approach. I'm not in a position to be able to do that, though I often dream of the day when perhaps I could. I'm married, I have 6 children, and my wife jokes that there's no way we're gonna like live in a Sprinter van and drive around the country.
Yeah, that'd be a lot.
But yeah, that's fantastic. And there's so much about that lifestyle that just resonates with me and is so fascinating to me. So I'm excited to talk to you on that front, but also generally speaking, regardless of whether you're a nomad or you're just doing side hustles, side gigs, or starting your own business, being an entrepreneur or solopreneur. There's lots of things that we can consider in how to create a successful business in an online environment, in a virtual distributed environment. It sounds like both of you work together as the team to do this business, but you could just as easily have a team of people scattered, around the country or throughout the world, helping you with your business as you're traveling around, making memories. All of that is wonderful. So we're going to explore all that. As we get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about the why behind the choice to live this kind of a lifestyle, and then we can dig into the how of like how you're making it work in the particulars of your business, how you're making it work, and then some ideas on how we can work effectively in an online environment for others who are listening.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, John. Monica and I, we started working online and traveling while we were working in, our business is a pandemic baby. So we started in 2020. We actually had plans to serve in the Peace Corps. We were going to be off for 2 years from 2020 to 2022 in Mozambique. But then obviously because of the pandemic, that didn't pan out the way we were planning on. So our plans kind of ended up being all jumbled up. We didn't really know what direction to go at that point. We kind of had pushed off our later career plans until after we came back from the Peace Corps, because that's 2 years away. We're like, well, we'll figure that out when we get there, We had tossed around the idea of master's programs for each of us, and so we ended up actually moving in with my parents for most of 2020, and we just got kind of whatever jobs we could find. We were working in senior healthcare. We were working in, I was working as a waiter at a restaurant, and we weren't loving it. It just wasn't, we felt kind of trapped. We felt like, I think I'll speak for Monica because we've talked a lot about this. She felt really trapped that she couldn't travel, that she couldn't go where she wanted. And I kind of felt trapped in the sense that I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know where to go with my life. I felt like for so long, we were waiting for someone else to give us a green light to move forward with our life, because we were waiting for the Peace Corps. They told us it would be a couple of weeks. They'd get back to us and let us know when we could go, which then turned into months, which then turned into 6, 7, 8 months. It just kept going. And we both felt so stuck that we were waiting for someone else to tell us when we can live our life and to tell us what we could do. And that kind of flipped a switch for us where we realized, why can't we just make our own future? Why can't we decide for ourselves what we're going to do? So Monica really got the ball rolling for us. She found a program, a course that we took online to teach us how to become virtual assistants. And that's how we started working online. Mostly so that we could create our own schedule. We weren't seeing each other very much at all in the jobs that we got. And so we wanted to see each other more. We wanted to create and adapt our schedule to fit around the things that we prioritize in life. So like family events and going to visit our friends and be there with people who need us or who needed help. And so we started working as virtual assistants, and it's been a huge, huge journey since then. There's been a lot of changes between, we've done virtual assistant work, we've done web design, we're doing coaching. There's been a lot of different shifts and transformations, but it's been like the world's best roller coaster ride, because now we're in the driver's seat and it totally changes the game.
Yeah. I really love that you asked like about our why first, because in running a business and being a digital nomad, like if you don't have a why, then it's just not going to be worth it. Like it's so hard to put yourself out there and to run a business. It's so hard to constantly be moving around if you don't have a really solid why. And so that's something that I feel like Austin and I have really, really worked on together, is what exactly is our why. And our why for our lifestyle that we're choosing to live is just the ability to live life intentionally and to connect and grow with more people than we ever would have if we had stayed in one place. And we really believe that like as we travel and as other people travel, that you build this sense of empathy, and that's ultimately what the world is missing right now, is this really deep understanding that we're all so similar instead of being different. And so that's really what motivates us, is to continue to build that empathy within ourselves, to stretch ourselves, to grow, but then also to invite people to grow alongside of us as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love the simplicity of it. Excuse me. I love the kind of minimalist approach to life, the desire to just be present in the here and now, to be experiencing what you're experiencing, to be there for the connections with friends, family, with community. All of that, I think, is at the heart of the why behind that kind of a lifestyle for a lot of people. And I think all of that is really beautiful. And of course, it's not the only way to achieve those things. There are other ways that people can foster that within their lives, but each of those, I think, generally speaking, people will be happier, healthier, when we embrace those types of principles in our lives, regardless of whether we're a digital nomad or we live in work in a traditional organization and more of a traditional setting. That we can still apply those principles. So that's all fantastic. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna just emphasize that what you said. For us, part of that is location freedom. We can work where from literally anywhere in the world, as long as we have an internet connection. But that's not for everybody. For some people, like you said, it's a little something more location dependent, or a more traditional job, or anywhere in between. But it's less about the lifestyle and more about aligning your life and being an active participant in your life to create what lines up your values with how you're living.
Yeah, for sure. And Monica, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that we are just a living testament of that, of just being healthier and happier the more you live your life intentionally and you are the active participant of creating the life that you want to live. Collectively, Austin and I have lost over 100 pounds, and it's not been anything like crazy, like any crazy diets or anything. It's just been living a life that's more active, that's more aligned with who we are. And we are so much, we are literally lighter, but we feel lighter as well, and we're happier, and everything has just been so much easier once you start picking a life and choosing a life that's really aligned with you, and really living the certain values that you're looking for.
Yeah, well said. And you talked about virtual assistant, or is that what you're still doing in your work, or describe how that's evolved over time and what you're currently doing?
Yeah. So when I first started looking for a way to work online, the only things I really found information about were becoming a virtual assistant or becoming an Instagram influencer. And that was just not, I don't know, that just didn't sound fun to me. So we chose to go the virtual assistant route, which is awesome because it gave us a really solid foundation on online marketing, on design, on different like small businesses. And we worked like really in depth with a lot of small businesses to really understand like what was working in their business, what wasn't working. But ultimately it felt Like we just went from 1 9 to 5 to 1 24/7. Like we just were still working in someone else's business. We weren't creating something that we loved. It gave us a really, like, I'm really grateful that we started there because it gave us such a good solid foundation. We worked there for a little bit less than a year, I think, before we decided to pivot and to grow into our own business. And so we opened a web design agency between the two of us. And we build websites for people, and we help them with their branding and their messaging. And that was so fun. And we still do that a little bit, but it just felt so much more creative, and it felt more like we were creating something bigger than ourselves instead of just working in someone else's business. We absolutely love that. And then as we've traveled, a lot of people have been like, hey, like, how are you doing that? Like, teach me how to work online, teach me how to travel. And so we've pivoted into this coaching role where we can help other people travel and start online businesses and really take ownership of their life. And I mean, the quote we always say is become the author of their lives, right? So that's kind of how our journey has evolved. I mean, we've had lots of twists and turns. We've had lots of ups and downs. I mean, like our bio said, we've made a lot of mistakes, but we've had so much fun doing it.
And part of that, as I'm hearing you talk, it sounds like, your definition of success today, perhaps, I'd love to hear you describe this a little bit more and your thinking on this, but it sounds to me like you fundamentally shifted the way you view a happy, successful life versus perhaps the traditional kind of norms and pressures and expectations that society puts on people. And perhaps that you even may have felt earlier in your life and in your careers.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I love about like defining success is it's always kind of changing for us. It's definitely changed since we started this journey from what it was, which for me was more of a financial stability point of view. Like if I had, X amount of money in my bank account, I would consider that successful. And then just like you said, that's drastically changed. And now it's more about, kind of like I said before, it's about authoring our own story, and it's about being in control and not letting other people dictate. Not letting other people dictate what happens in my life, because it's my life. But that doesn't mean I have to give up financial stability. I don't have to give up having the money that I need to meet my needs. I can definitely have both, but the focus has changed.
Yeah. There is a really clear narrative that I think like if you don't intentionally do something else, that's where you're going to fall into, where you go to school, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get married, you have a house, buy a house, you have children, and then you work in your job and you work up the ranks and you try to get promoted and try to get bonuses and all these things, and you keep working till retirement. And then after your retirement, you can do whatever you can do whatever you want. But normally at that point, like, our health isn't that good, or we have other priorities. And we don't have time. We don't have as much time or physical ability to go actually explore the things that you want. And I think it's so easy to fall into that narrative without choosing that. And if that's what you choose, that's absolutely great. But the whole point of life is to be able to intentionally choose and to project into the future. Like, is this taking me where I want it to? And if not, like, what am I going to do about it? Otherwise you're going to end up, several years down the road looking at retirement and thinking, I'm not there yet. I can't enjoy life yet, so.
Well, it's why so many people find themselves in, what often gets termed a midlife crisis.
Yes.
It doesn't need to be midlife. I mean, I've seen people go through that kind of an existential life crisis, in their mid-20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. Like, it can happen anytime. The reality is, though, when people get stuck and when people feel, like maybe the choices they made in the past, for whatever reason, maybe they felt kind of pressured into it, maybe they felt forced into it, maybe it was path of least resistance, whatever the case may be, you get to a point where you're like, it's not working for me anymore. I feel stuck. That's kind of what is the root cause of, what often gets termed a midlife crisis. And life is just too short, and you just never know. And just this past weekend, I went to a family funeral in another part of the country. And I don't want to make this all sad, but she was young. She had a degenerative disease that was super crazy rare, that that, you know, everyone was just shocked. 3 weeks ago, she was completely healthy.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
decline was so steep, and she was young, and she was a vivacious person, the life of the party. Everyone loved her to death. And, you know, her time was up, and you just don't know. You just never know. And so, you know, don't wait for that. When I'm 65, I can now retire and go do what I want to do and have a life of meaning and purpose. Like, live your life of meaning and purpose now, have those
Yeah.
connections, value your relationships. You can earn money along the way too. Like, don't get, you know, everything I think
Yeah.
you're saying suggests that that's important too, because of course you need to pay the
Absolutely.
bills and you need to support your lifestyle. But if we can be mindful about, you know, our priorities, and not allow ourselves uh, to put aside, you know, what's actually going to drive greater fulfillment,
Yeah.
I think we're going to be better off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that you had to face that loss of that family member. That's never an easy thing.
But it's such a good reminder, though, that we are not guaranteed tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that, like, every day you are living to your fullest potential, and you are trying to become the best you can, and you're living and evolving as a human, and you're working to be better, and you're working to create something, but you're also enjoying your life along the way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I note the time, and we've had a great conversation, but we have not much yet touched on the tips and tricks for growing and scaling an online business.
Yeah.
So let's take the rest of our time to discuss that. You've obviously been, you know, iterating, experimenting, learning along the way. Some things have worked, some things haven't worked. But you got to the point where you have a successful online business. You're able to live the lifestyle you want to live. What are some of those things that, you know, the lessons, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what you've learned, that if others listening, whether, you know, whether they want to be a digital nomad or not, but they want to figure out how they can do this successfully, what would you suggest?
Yeah. I think that actually plays really well into what we were already talking about. And for us, for me, the lesson has been, you have to find something that you love, because if you don't love it, you're not gonna be as good at it. You're not gonna be present, and you're not gonna be able to help clients or help other people or help your team as well as you could. So I think of it, the way I've heard it explained is, you have like a triple Venn diagram, and you have, on one circle is the things that you love to do, your passions. If you could do it all day, every day, you would. You just absolutely love to do it. The next circle is things that you're good at, skills that you have. These could be hard or soft skills. And then the third circle are things that the world needs, the things that people would pay you for, that the marketplace has a vacancy of. And right in the middle, where all of those three things cross, that's your sweet spot. And that's what you should work towards creating, whether it's creating a business or finding employment, whatever it is, do work in that space, because you're going to love it, you're going to be good at it, and people need it. And it's going to be, not that it's going to be easy all the time, but it's going to be much easier to provide that value that people need. It's going to be easier to sell your products or your services. It's going to be easier to connect with people. It's going to be easier to market. It's going to be easier to work on your business. Everything just becomes, like I said, not easy, but easier.
Kind of I guess a caveat to that would be that you don't have to have it figured out to start. I think so many times we're paralyzed by, like, all the what ifs, or we feel like we have to have that perfectly figured out. We have to know exactly what it is that we love to do. But if you don't go out and experiment with things, you don't go try things, you'll never get it started. If we had never started as virtual assistants, we never would have known that, like, the creative website, like the marriage between the strategy of a website and the design of a website was just such a fun place for us to be. We really liked that space. But we never would have known that if we hadn't started somewhere. So I really think that the important thing is that you start, and then you just act like a scientist, you know, and you experiment with things, and you try new things, and you put yourself out there, and if it doesn't work, well, then you cross that off your list, you move on to the next thing, you know. And I really think you can get, like, a lot of traction just by trying new things, and you'll find things that you never ever thought you would have liked, that you end up being super good at, and you end up loving, and people end up paying you for it, and it's so fun.
I really like that. And I think that principle is important in any occupation, in any job, in any business. So whatever you're doing, and anyone in the audience today, whatever your role is, this principle of rapid iteration, experimentation, trying things out. Don't get so stuck trying to figure out the perfect way to do something that you never get started. It's okay to learn as you go. It's okay to build the plane while you're flying it. And I know that's a little scary, but people often, we get nervous about risk. We get nervous about maybe we have some perfectionistic tendencies, or whatever the case may be. Of course, I want to do good work. I want to add value to my clients. But of course, I'm also going to learn as I go. And as long as I remember that, trying something and having it not quite work the way I expected, I don't need to view that as a failure. I learn that as a learning, as an opportunity, as a growth potential. And then I iterate and I try something else, and I keep on experimenting. I keep on learning. I keep on growing. That's what every organization needs a lot more of. So whether you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, whether you're a digital nomad, or you're in a traditional organization, whatever type of role you have, whatever type of job or career path you're pursuing, that is what we need more of in the modern and future world of work, so that we can be effective, so we can iterate rapidly, we can be agile, and we can provide value to the market. So that Venn diagram that you just described, also, absolutely, like, do stuff that you love. Now, I'm not going to dog anyone for doing an honest day's work, and it may suck, and you may have to do it to put food on the table. I've certainly been in that position in the past, but when possible, if you can find a way to align the work that you do with the purpose and something that the world needs, that's the perfect alignment. And now you're going to be happier. You're going to be more fulfilled. You're going to do better work. You're going to be more creative and innovative. You're going to, help people in the process because they need what you're doing. And all of that, it just creates this symbiotic kind of relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, John. I think that's very well put. And I think there's this, I wish I remember who said this, but there's a quote that I've heard quite a bit, and it says, paraphrasing, if you have a why, you can bear any how. And I would add to that, you can find any how. So if you don't know how to get to where you want to go, if you have a why, you'll figure it out. And then if you find that sweet spot in the middle of that Venn diagram, that's going to help you create your why as to why you're working, why you're building whatever you're working towards. And then when things get rough, and they will, just because you have a passion for it doesn't mean there's going to be days where you don't want to do it. When those days come, you have that why to carry you through that how. And I think, just to get it out of the way, you're going to make mistakes, right? Like there's no avoiding that. And I don't, I've also heard it said that something like failure is the shortcut to success, or something like that. But I think it's necessary for success. I don't think you can be successful, whatever your definition of success is, without having mistakes or failures along the way. So if you're worried about that happening, just know it's going to. And it takes bravery and it takes courage to face that. But what's the alternative? The alternative is not living your life to your full potential. It's living a half life. And I don't think that's a better alternative.
Yeah, well said. Austin and Monica, this has just been a really great conversation. I note the time. I need to let you go here in just a minute, but before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Yeah, so we are really easy to find if you search Austin and Monica on Instagram or austinandmonica.com. We're there all the time.
Austin and Monica on Facebook.
Yeah, pretty much any platform. LinkedIn, we're all over. And then we also have a podcast, the Profitable Nomad Couple podcast. So those are the best ways to connect with us. And we really do love connecting with people. So for anyone listening, feel free to reach out. We honestly, one of our favorite things about being in this space is just meeting new people and connecting with people who are on the same journey that we are. So feel free to reach out to us on any of those platforms. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then final thoughts, I guess would just be, the quote from Winnie the Pooh comes to my head, and I know I'm going to quote it wrong, but it's just the fact that you are braver than you think, and you're stronger than you know. Like people who are looking, like when you're starting and you're looking into the future, it feels so daunting and so scary. And the current version of you can't even imagine being successful because you have to change so much, and you change and you evolve and you grow so much to get there. But you have it, like I really believe that anyone has it in them to take the steps necessary to try, to fail, to try, to fail, to try, and then to be successful. And I really believe that anyone listening, like, just take encouragement that I believe in you. I know you can do it.
Yeah. The only thing I would add was I do kind of feel like today was much more of a discussion around principles and mindset, and less around like the nitty-gritty practical tactical things. But I think that's the best foundation for any practical or technical advice you're going to get. I think two people can implement the same exact strategies in their business, the same marketing strategies, the same growth strategies. But if their mindsets are different, if one has an empowering growth mindset and the other has a disempowering, limited, fixed mindset, you can do the same exact things and get drastically different results. And so that's why that's so important to me. And I know that's kind of the direction this conversation was steered, because that's the best foundation for that kind of thing. So I think, just to top it off, don't be afraid to fail, but also don't be afraid to succeed.
Well said. Thank you both, Austin and Monica. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what they can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.